Tonight's the night, and we're all celebrating the greatest coaching career in the state of Wisconsin. Mineral Point Pointers head coach Scott Schmitz.
They knew it was the end of another season, an end of a career.
You know, we all knew that we were getting close to the end of the Schmitz era. It was a feeling of shock, you know, it's just like, what now type of thing, you know. And
I went in and I called my brother and I started bawling.
I sat literally on a gravel road and just kind of stared.
I don't think the guy sometimes understands what he has meant to so many kids, so many families too.
You start reminiscing immediately. You start, you know, thinking of all these things of, you know, what he's done for you and how much he's meant to you.
When he first started, I started coming up as 8th grade. And at that time, he was kind of the conditioning coach, the technique coach, the motivating coach. He was kind of everything. He had a lot of hats he had to wear.
We went through some tough times. There was a season or two where we only had a varsity wrestling team. We didn't even fill all the weights on that team. He stood strong and ended up building that program back up to where we had the numbers again and started becoming, you know, very, very successul.
When he asked Coach Spohr to help him, that's when everything really blossomed, because you had Coach Spohr, the grinder, and you had Coach being the technician, and they worked so well one-on-one together.
Actually, I started with Scott. I was the weight room coach, and there was kids running all over the place, and Scott didn't have anybody to help supervise. So he asked me if I would help him for 2 weeks. Well, then I knew he was pretty desperate because about 2 weeks passed and didn't have anybody, and he asked me if I'd be the assistant coach. I don't know anything about wrestling. I mean, it was bad. The only thing I really knew how to do was blow a whistle and scream and holler. I did it for 14 years, and it was only supposed to be 2 weeks. When I first started, we were extremely young. I think we had 7 freshmen and not a lot of talent. They just worked and worked and worked, and Scott had a lot of faith in what I was doing, and we had 2 totally different roles. He was the technician, and I was the disciplinarian, and pretty much pushed them as hard as I could. Then they just kept getting better and better, and then they believed in what we were doing.
You know, he kind of got the ship headed in the right direction. My freshman year, it's the first time in a long time that we had a full team under his program, under his leadership. Started winning duels and just built that confidence that kind of laid the groundwork for the teams after us.
If there's kids walking through the hall that maybe need a family, he's on them about joining wrestling. Kids that weren't going to play in other sports or maybe didn't have a sport at all, he's on them about joining wrestling.
When we had middle school conference, I beat a kid from Cuba City that was supposedly really good, little kids, and Scott instantly said, "You need to come out for wrestling," because all I ever did was play basketball. I never wrestled through federation or any of that stuff. But so then he decided that he was going to give me his warm-up to try and persuade me to go out for wrestling, and it worked.
He brought out, I think, the best of a lot of kids that maybe didn't have another avenue.
The kids that are in wrestling, he can talk to you about wrestling, he can relate to you about other things, hunting or fishing or sports. He's your gym teacher, he's your coach, he's your friend. When you like a guy, you want to come out and be with that guy. So he got numbers out for the sport. Then along with those numbers, his passion, willingness to coach, I think it really elevated this program for the last 32 years.
Starting back in 8th grade, taking the time, one-on-ones or with me and Tuck, just to teach me the sport, and it got me hooked.
The first state team championship, where he was able to hoist that trophy above his head, he just hugged me and picked me up off the ground, and you know, all those emotions came through of how hard it was. And he had really, I think, established himself, and then the success then continued.
You just always heard about Coach Schmitz, you know, best coach in the area by far.
I think this is a great thing to happen to this team.
They have one of the best coaches in the state, maybe in the country, we don't know. He sure acts like it anyway. He knows everything about wrestling you ever want to believe.
Who are we? We are Mineral Point.
Who's your coach? You know, and everybody's Scott Schmitz.
You know, it put him on a godlike pedestal.
It confused me because when I was just starting, our coach was George Fiedler, but our response was supposed to be, Coach Schmitz.
Each year it means a little more and more to you until all of a sudden you really realize what you're yelling about and what you're in the room for and what it really means. But by then it's already stuck. I mean, it's to your core, you know.
You felt a sense of confidence with him in the corner.
I always teach you Mineral Point, you're up by 2 points, wearing that Mineral Point singlet.
Putting the blue on was 1 point in your favor before the match even starts, and I think having Scott Schmitz in your corner was another point.
He was going to get you those points. He was going to battle for you. Knew he was going to war for you.
As soon as you saw Coach coming over to give you your little pre-match talk, you know what to do, go out there and get it done, you know. It's almost like all your anxiety and everything just kind of left. You're like, all right, he's here now.
He'd be the last one to give me a high five before running on that mat.
That little reassurance that, you know, all I got to do is go out and wrestle.
You know, you weren't just out there wrestling for Mineral Point. You were out there wrestling for Schmitz, you know. He handled the mat differently, the refs differently, the coaches.
Just brings that mental toughness out of everyone.
He could get every ounce of talent out of every kid.
He could motivate with just words or just even looks.
He always knew what to say to me, not only to motivate me, but also when he's giving me advice on what to do, like, I just would trust him.
He always pushed you to your limits and never let you quit.
Working harder for that little extra.
Patience and just technique. It was technique, the same drills every night, every night. I knew what we were going to do at 3:10, 3:20, 3:30.
His overall love for the sport trickled down. His enthusiasm was easy to pick up, and the intensity he brought to a room when he was just coaching. You didn't know if he had a bad day or a good day, because when he got in here, he was all about the sport, and it pumped us all up.
Whether it took coming in at 5:30 in the morning with the kid or having kids stay over at his house trying to help him lose weight, his passion for the sport and for our town and team was just incredible.
The things you were willing to do to see your athletes succeed, it spoke volumes. My freshman year, I was having a hard time making weight at 103. You came out, 5 times, something like that. And you ran with me out on the country roads to help me make weight. And
his knowledge of positioning kids in dual meets and putting the team in the best position to win.
A master at moving kids around to hit the other team's weaknesses.
There was so much respect in the years that he coached for the kids in this room. If he told us to move mountains, we would move mountains.
If we were down in the first period or second period, we always put them away in the third period, because both guys are going to be tired, but our guys were in a lot better shape, and they knew techniques for simple moves. And we won so many matches in the third period.
He treated every wrestler the same way.
He didn't really pick favorites or have, he was on everybody's butt equally and gave everybody the same praise.
Treated the last guy on the roster just like the state champ. He did everything he could to make sure that guy was improving.
When that kid does go the full 6, or even if he does get pinned, Schmitty is always there to be like, hey, at least you're doing this. There's so many other kids that should be doing this, but you're sticking it out.
I remember a dual meet against Lodi up at the Merrill Finals, where we only won 6 matches, and we ended up beating Lodi because we won all 6 matches by pins. And I just never forget how pissed off Persky was because we beat him only 6 wins. If you just get off your back, it'll help this team so much.
Obviously, I was very green as a freshman, but ended up qualifying for state 3 times and placing 3 times. So obviously a testament to what Scott can do with whoever, if you're willing to put in the effort.
When they come out the end in March, they understand what the impact has had on their life.
All the accolades and stuff like that, team championships, it's about what he does for our community of kids, turning boys into men.
I don't think I would have been able to achieve some of the things that I've achieved if it wasn't for Mineral Point Wrestling.
When I got beat, I looked up to him before I was able to shake that kid's hand, and he gave me that look. He's like, you shake that kid's hand, like he beat you straight up.
There was a practice when we were managers, my brother and myself, and it was the year that my dad was actually going through his cancer. We weren't having a very good practice with the kids. We had Sully and Hanson and Mester all on that team, so it was a very good team, and he knew what their potential was. He pointed right over to my brother and I. He said, you guys think you got it bad? Put yourselves in Steve Sokol's shoes. I finally realized that I'm never gonna, let adversity and that keep me down.
For him to want you to succeed as a person, you know, not just on the mat, but in life, and, you know, I know that he has inspired me in life.
He was a straight shooter. You know, he didn't fudge on weights. He proved to the kids there, you're going to do things the right way or not going to do them at all.
And the guy remembers every single little bit of your match. And
if you do make some mistakes, like he goes through the whole match in 30 seconds, like this is what you got to do here.
He gets it done in 30 seconds because he's pep talking the next guy that's walking onto the mat.
He's so hard on you on the mat. You know, he's not going to give you an inch. He's not giving you any sympathy, no nothing. And as any good wrestler would ever tell you, that's exactly what you want. But as soon as you come off the mat, he's just such a, like you said, then he goes back to being that father figure, that teddy bear.
I definitely got to give a shout out to Carol. His wife is his rock. I think that she definitely helps out big time.
He's produced quite a few coaches, you know, at the college level, high school level, middle school, youth level. Knowing his system, you know, that's what we teach at the little kids, at the youth level. Spending years in this room with him has, you know, helped us in our confidence as coaches. You know what I mean? Like, we know we're doing the right thing. Schmitz proved that for 32 years.
He's a mentor to some of these people. He's a father figure to a lot of us.
Father figure?
A father figure.
Father figure.
A father figure.
The father of the family.
It's like second dad to me. Father figure to everybody. And I don't think there's a wrestler on that wall or anybody that wrestled for him wouldn't say that.
You know, he's just always right there next to your side. And I was in a predicament. There was a bunch of people, you know, that went up and spoke on my behalf, and he didn't go up there. He stopped, stood by my side, and said, I'm not gonna go up and speak to him. I'm gonna stand right next to him and you know, speak about him, and I will always be by his side. That little piece helped me get through a really tough time, and it was many years after I was out of high school that, you know, and he was just still, you're one of our kids, you know, you're one of mine, you know, so.
He just gave 110%, not just for you in wrestling. He cared about your well-being in school, I mean, in life, in health.
When the weight thing happened, stayed out at his house the night before that sectional tournament. We got up and worked out 4 or 5 times that night, and just none of the weight was coming off. Once it finally settled in that it wasn't going to happen, it was a pretty hard pill to swallow, you know, being a returning state champ and not being able to wrestle at the sectional tournament. Just felt like I let him down. I felt like I embarrassed him, and he never once made it out to be that way. He still respects, you know, all the hard work and stuff that I did do for him, and didn't all put it on one night. I think that, you know, has helped me, you know, not just in wrestling, but in a lot of stuff in my life.
With the passing of my father, he did some things for me, you know, as a father figure that was really important.
My biggest memory was after the biggest loss of my wrestling career, and he was there. After the state finals my senior year, in the dungeon of the Kohl Center, when I was crying like a baby, he wasn't there to be disappointed in me. He was there for comfort.
After I got beat in the finals my senior year, it was just Scott being there to words of encouragement.
I remember one time he just said that, you know, if we had to go to war, I wouldn't want to be on the battlefield with anybody but you guys, you know.
We do go to war in the next couple of weeks, you know, which I hope we don't, but if we do, you know, and if I had to go, I would want these guys right behind me, because I know they wouldn't back down from anything.
So that just sinks right in, you know, and you're like, I'll die for you, you know.
It's the fans too. It's just their involvement with everything, whether it comes down to concessions or taking care of what you guys are doing right now and stuff like that. It's the community, and Scott's the ringleader, and I'll never forget George Fiedler is whatever he wants, he gets. He is the man, we all follow. And everybody knows their role. That's the important thing, you know. So I think that's kind of where the whole family thing comes together.
The brotherhood, I guess you could say, with the actual wrestlers themselves and the cheerleaders and everything. I mean, everybody's one big family that way too, and you have, you know, what, 30 moms, you know, throughout the wrestling season.
And you're on that one bus where you're in that mat, when you're in that corner, Schmitz makes the kids and the families of those kids feel like they're a part of the family.
He puts our guys, our wrestlers, through difficult situations. And those difficult situations crappy practices that we were pushed through, the extra running, the sprints, the things that we hated to do, bring people together. It bonds them together like glue.
We would, come off the mat, you might jump rope or whatever, but then he made it a point that you were back in that chair, cheering for your guys, watching the wrestling match, and you get in that supportive mode, and you really, truly feel for those guys like brothers.
He tells these kids to hang out. It doesn't matter what grade you're in. He doesn't want the seniors to have their own clique, the juniors to have their own clique. He wants everybody to be one unit. I think when we bought into that, that's what made our teams better.
I can actually remember the first time at the Cole Center, and I was, Jason Mester and Jake Hansen and Gary, and those guys were up there wrestling. I was an 8th grader, and watching the Point crowd and just being amazed at how big of a family it was, and everybody's so excited and everything. And I ran up to Coach, and at that time I was still, like I said, living in Platteville and everything, and I'm like, I'm gonna wrestle for you, and whether he meant it or not, he's like, hey, I'm excited for you to wrestle for me, and
my sophomore year, I found myself in the state finals. Scott is so good at these situations because he knows you so well as a person. Like, I'm standing there through the Parade of Champions. I was scared. I was scared to death. As the Parade of Champions ends, 103, I'm like, up now. He grabs me by the arm and he just said, hey, he goes, it's the other guy's first time too. Go wrestle your match. And I'm telling you, that right there just changed my entire mindset of the whole match. I went from scared to, all right, I'm going to go crush this guy. I'm going to go crush him right now.
To be on the same team to win the first state championship for Mineral Point High School back in 1980, and for you to win it both in 80 and 81, and best time of our lives.
We were doing sprints in the gym over Christmas break, and it felt like we were doing those sprints forever. And he's like, get on the wall, do it again. And I was like, oh, God damn, I'm tired. And then I hear Ryan McGuire go, but Coach, we're tired. And I was like, no. Everyone just was like, no. And we look over at Schmitz, and he's winding up, chucks his coffee mug at the wall, shatters.
When we went to Jeff Jordan camp, and on the second day in, I sprained my ankle. The only means of transportation we had out there was a school bus or Coach's Harley. Guess which one we took? I rode Bitch for about a half hour on the back of his motorcycle to the hospital. It was an experience I'll never forget. I also had to wear his helmet. Thank you for that also.
Some of the best wrestling I've ever seen is in this wrestling room. Mester and Sullivan and Hansen wrestling each other, Joe Terrell and Clint. It kind of gives you goosebumps thinking about it. But
we've seen the good and we've seen the bad. The career-ending injuries that we've seen. When Jake Hansen broke his ankle riding that 54-match win streak, and my cousin Trevor Yeager broke his ankle in practice and ended his career.
Mike McKinley at sectionals, score was 1-0, and it was our choice, and we ended up deferring. And I'll never forget him. He was down on mat 1, screaming at me that we should have chose down instead of deferring. I was like, yep, I learned my lesson on that one. Never do that again.
We were reffing the Watertown Early Bird a few years ago, and Garrett Ward was wrestling, kid from Clinton. Ward was up big in the third period, late, 30 seconds left, and the other kid throws a headlock, and I'm on the wrong side. Throws Ward down, the kid adjusts and sticks him, and Schmitty just come unglued on me. Gave me a good old 30-second ass chewing. And I will say I did experience a good deal of deja vu that day. It was illegal, and that was the one thing with Schmitty. If he was yelling at you as an official, you knew you were probably wrong. He carried a great deal of weight in the officials community. A lot of people respected his opinion always.
I can definitely say at Chuck's match last year in the semifinals, that night I was definitely scared when I was on the mat with him. It was pretty intense. And seeing him down in the tunnel afterwards was probably one of the more heartbreaking things, because I know he really wanted Chuck to win that state title.
The big matches, that when Dylan Schroeder beat the Doll kid at sectionals, when Greg Burke beat the kid from Sugar River, when Tucker Pitts was in the state finals, and he got the kid from Edgar locked up a cradle, and you might not think Coach Schmitz is that strong, but when he reached over and grabbed my knee, I thought he broke my knee, and he said, here comes that blanking cradle.
I wanted to bring back high school, actually. I always chuckle at the bloodbaths we had every night in practice. Mr. Ballman put us together, I think, knowing we both hated to lose, and a couple of them nights, with the elbows flying and the blood flying, We got pretty animated, but
when we decided to go to Jordan camp as a team, I ended up with food poisoning on the trip. Coach Schmitz pushed me to get through the camp and continue to work hard even when I was mentally and physically drained and wasn't quite sure I could do it.
Wrestling up in Merrill, wrestled a really big guy and giving up a lot of that weight. Beat me 10-0 after the first period. Ended up throwing the kid, pinned him in the second period.
I think it was 94, 95, we qualified for team state. Didn't have a 3 or a 12-pounder. I pinned a kid in the last match in the team sectionals. My dad's jumping up and down. Schmitty jumped over the chairs from the back row to the front row.
We had state championship teams, you know, and that was more fun than the you know, individual championship.
The 02 team state title was, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I mean, that was our season. You know, we'd had 4 tough years of some disappointments and some bad matches, and then that 02 season, and there was nobody touching us. And it was probably one of the greatest feelings I've ever had.
My freshman year when I pinned the Clister from Wrightstown at a semifinal match. And when I looked over and seen our crowd, seeing them all going crazy, we were all doing the Lane Frost 8-second thing. You know, everyone thought we were kind of cocky and stuff by doing that. But, you know, that was just the movie we always watched when we were on the charter buses and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was really cool to see that.
Senior year when we won team state, up in the barn, listening to the crowd go wild when he raised that championship trophy in the air.
At team state, we were up against Cadott. We were tied. We lost on criteria or something like that. And everybody's kind of bummed out. On that Monday, we all got called to the gym. We were all thinking, you know, what, did somebody do something? And they told us that we actually won state. You found some crazy rule in the rule book that none of the refs at team state, you would think they would know, but they didn't. And they crowned us team state champs. You know, Mineral Point wouldn't have been team state champs in 2007. That speaks volumes to, you know, your knowledge of the sport, how invested you are in seeing the team succeed and seeing your athletes succeed.
When I was a senior and I was at state and I was wrestling my 3rd place match, I ended up getting 3rd, won my match, and I went to the crowd and did like a championship point, like number 1, you know. And we were in the back. He's like, you know, you probably should have held up a 3. So for 3rd, I didn't get 1st. But
going to Watertown when Scotty and the boys were wrestling up there was our bus ride. When we hit the brakes and we almost lost Bert and Frank. I remember the look on your face when we walked in the gym there with Frank limping and Bert holding Band-Aids on the back of his head.
He also helped me come into this world, as he would like to say. Because when my mom was pregnant, Dad was obviously on the farm. Somebody had to milk cows that night, so Scott actually milked cows. We had sows pigging. He also loves telling that story too. So thank you, Scott, for helping me being brought into this world.
One of the greatest predictions you ever had was when Tucker was born and we were over at the hospital and you were videotaping and predicted that he would be a state champion in 18 years.
Junior and senior year, being on top of the podiums, winning a state title, and you know, it's pretty cool to be able to not only shake your head coach's hand at the top of the podium, but your godfather's hand.
Getting woken up at 3 a.m. in the hotel room to officiate a match between him and Bo Downey, in which Schmitty ended up with a broken nose.
When he was doing 30-second goes my freshman year with Alex Johnson, right away Alex just broke his ribs and Schmitty tried to play it off like he was fine even though he could barely breathe.
He had the entire Oshkosh gymnasium.
Oh, well, it wasn't a gymnasium.
It was a gymnasium. It was like a huge college
convention like
it was
center.
a center.
Like, so we kind of took a leap of faith because we brought all the stuff before we actually asked Schmitty if we could do it. Made sure he's in a good mood. We were just like, hey, you think we could maybe have some breakfast as a team or something the next day at the tournament? And then we showed up with a griddle and bacon and sausage and pancakes.
We had that thing popping. The whole thing. You would walk in, first thing you'd smell, bacon. First thing you would smell.
Even just the stuff outside of wrestling, like paintballing out at their woods and stuff, and just some of the stories that came from there.
Because he has little, like, kind, random surprises. So it was one of the years we were up at state and we were just driving around and there's some quick trip that was on a corner. It was a corner quick trip. It was like a triangle. And we would just talk about that all the time, about how cool that quick trip was. And I think I said something along the lines that it's on my bucket list to go to this quick trip. Well, then we're driving, thinking we're going back to the hotel one day, and Schmitz just pulls in there. Come on, boys, we're going into this quick trip. It's on your bucket list. You can check it off now.
Well, you know, he'd be sitting there with his crossed arms and have his leg up and acting like nothing's going on, and all of a sudden just trying to act relaxed. And then something would happen, and he would be back basically on all fours and screaming and spitting on his beard. That was, I mean, again, another thing that anyone that ever watched him will know that's, and then 2 seconds later, he's back just perched, you know, hanging out, very calm, and he was very explosive that way.
Yeah, he does that head shake. Yeah,
he knew the figure that he had to keep for his kids, but he also couldn't contain his excitement for simple little moves that were happening in a match, you know?
Okay. Let's get after it.
What was that, Workman?
Guys, you gotta be kidding me.
Once Schmitz starts folding your clothes, that's when you knew the match was over.
Start early, get done early.
Yeah, never happened.
And that look, that just stone cold look that he gives you, right in your eyes, you know, right down to your soul, and then just that high five and the slap on the back, and I feel like every person that's ever wrestled for him can feel it right now, you know.
And I think that that's why we've become the most successful program in the state of Wisconsin, is just because of, you know, their hard work and dedication to the sport and to every kid that they got to coach. So for Schmitz to be able to come back and, you know, fulfill Al Bauman's deal is a great story, and you know, it's awesome that we're getting to carry on that tradition with Curtis now.
I think it's a tribute to you and everything you've done, not only for Mineral Point Wrestling, but for the state of Wisconsin wrestling, really. You and Aunt Carol have had a huge impact on my life, and it's made me, I think, who I am today.
I just wanted to send you a quick message and tell you how proud I am of you. It's been an amazing 32 years, and it's been really fun to watch you grow and develop as a head wrestling coach. I'm really excited to see how the next 32 years will go for you and how you'll adjust to being one of us, a fan.
It's an honor to be able to be taking the mantle of Mineral Point head wrestling coach, and I know the guidance that you'll continue to give me over these years will be invaluable. I hope I make you proud.
Millions of hours that you never ever asked for any extra pay or any extra accolades, but you know, you're worth $1 million in all of our hearts. The day that Tucker won his state championship and jumped in your arms, it was the proudest day of our lives. You had a lot of those with a lot of kids. Good luck to you in the future, and I can't wait to go on some of these wrestling trips and show you what it's like to be on the other side of the ball.
Congratulations on a great career. You're an awesome coach, Ern, and an awesome guy. Hopefully you can do a lot more hunting and spending more time with family. I think the big thing you're going to miss, Scott, is building the relationship with the kids. You're a great man. Love you, buddy.
It's been great coaching with you, alongside you, learning from you.
Thank you for everything that you've done for our wrestling program and everything you've done for me as an athletic director. You know I love you, Schmitty.
So here in college I had a class last semester. It was a writing class, and one of our papers was to choose a role model. I chose you. I wrote about the things you taught me in wrestling, such as attitude, effort, everything that kind of goes with wrestling. And if I had to leave any tips for Curtis to replace you, I'd say to be as much like you as he possibly can.
Everything you did for me.
For me and my brother.
For me, my brother, and our family. And
for me and my family, yeah. You incorporated all of my family as part of the program.
For getting me into the sport, and it's a huge part of my life.
Getting me started in this wonderful sport of wrestling, and being able to coach next to you, learn how to educate young men.
For allowing me to coach with you for 15 years.
For believing in us and showing us what a true leader you are.
To give me the work ethic that's helped me through many different parts of my life to get me to where I am today.
You and Carol both for the sacrifices that you have made throughout your entire career. That's very time consuming.
For being the best coach that anybody could ever ask for.
For all the memories.
For all the life lessons you've taught me.
For helping me become a better wrestler and show what hard work can get you.
To the difficult times, the highs and lows.
To be part of one of the 32 years that you've been coaching.
You even supported me and everything after I was done with the Mineral Point program.
You were never a dad, but you were a dad to all these kids, so they'd do anything for you, including my own. If you told them to jump off a cliff, they wouldn't think nothing of it, they'd do it. So I know they confided in you a lot, and I appreciate that, but I also know a lot of other kids needed you, and you stepped in to take that dad role, so thanks for that.
I know you'll always be there for me, so thank you.
I'm proud to have wrestled for you in Mineral Point. Thank you.
We gave you rough rocks, and you made diamonds out of them.
Followed in your footsteps. I hope I'm making you proud in that aspect.
For all your time and pushing us to be the best we can be.
For everything you've done for me.
For everything.
For everything you've done in my life.
For everything.
For, everything, just being you.
Maybe we'll look forward to, who knows, chasing something in the woods or something now that you're retired.
Get after it in retirement.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. We're really going to miss you.
You have been a great coach. Time for you to go to the bleachers and watch the match. Happy days ahead.
You found out that you got the coaching position when one of your best friends, my fiance, Scott Graber, had gotten killed. From then you had become my brother-in-law, a godfather to Tucker, along with his coach, while Stacy was cheerleading on the side and Alicia did some managing. We had one hell of a ride, lots of fun. Good luck in your new journey, wherever it travels you to, and we'll be by your side.
We will miss you, and we didn't want you to retire. I even cried when they said you retired, but I know you're due for a rest, and I hope you'll always be around.
For everything you've done for our kids, from Curtis down to the girls cheerleading, and now having Kurt take over for you, what an opportunity.
You've truly gone down as one of the greatest coaches in Wisconsin wrestling history. That's with Ballman, Pieper, Bennett, Bob Miller. Scott, you're with them all now.
I couldn't be more proud of you for all your hard work, along with the rest of your assistants and teams. It will be exciting to see Curtis sitting in your chair. I wish him the best. Again, thanks for the memories.
As a big brother standing back watching your program, I really admired how you made it all about the kids and how you are able to get everyone involved, parents, grandparents, friends.
Really proud of you. I'm sure Dad is up there looking down at you, just saying thank you, and he's so proud of you, and we all are.
We're so very proud of what you've done for Mineral Point Wrestling and wrestling in the state of Wisconsin. Curly, be damn proud of you.
From when you were standing in the corner, when I was wearing that little red Wisconsin Badger singlet over a white t-shirt because I was insecure about my body, to when I was in my last match at the team state finals. I think retirement's going to do you a lot of good. Maybe end that dry spell and shoot a big buck, or maybe just simply work on your golf game. But one thing I am for sure, you will be often imitated, but never replicated.
This GTO is yours for a summer. You were in it hard, just like your program. It's coming out of retirement now, and you're going in. It sounds like good times again. Love you, man.
Want to let you know I appreciate all the years that you put in as the head wrestling coach. I'll sure miss you in the corner. Love you.
You have helped make Mineral Point Wrestling into a dynasty. On behalf of all the students that have ever been coached by you, I am proud to be able to say, hi, my name is Mackenzie Schmitz, and I have been Schmitz trained.
It was definitely a successful career, and we're all thankful to be a part of it.
Proud of you.
Thanks, Carol, for sharing him with us.
One thing I've always liked about you, you never quit coaching the kids, regardless of what the match was doing.
Congratulations, Scott.
We love you, Uncle Scott.
Thanks, Smitty, for everything.
Thanks, Coach.
I remember when you first started coaching. My dad and I would go to the wrestling matches. There weren't many people in attendance. Oh, how times have changed. You have created a dynasty.
Thanks for everything, Schmitty, and good luck in retirement.
Congratulations, Scott, from the Bunko Babes. Tip, tip.
The most memorable moments for the Rileys are when Jake was wrestling the kid from Denmark and got phased out. The ref had said, "How many fingers do I have up?" Schmitty said, "He said 3, let him be. Good one, coach." And then with Bailey, the Sunday that they were headed to Merrill, they were at practice, and I got a call from Schmitz, and he said, "Hey Deb, I think Bailey needs to go to the hospital. He got his ear ripped off in practice. He's got a lot of blood, and I think he needs stitches." After he hung up, he said to Bailey, "Maybe I should have reworded that a little bit differently."
I have enjoyed watching your teams, and I hope that you have a great retirement.
But more importantly, you and Aunt Carol now get to spend some family time together, go on the trips that you've always wanted to do. Great day to be a Pointer fan, right? Love you.
It's all of those things put together, you know. He's coach, you know. He's coach forever.